Okay, just giving people a minute here to join, minute or two before we get started. Let's see people joining now. Okay. Minutes more. Just a couple more seconds and then we will kick off this webinar. Thank you everybody for joining. Just watching everybody joining now. Okay, so we are at 1 minute, so I will go ahead and get started here. So hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on how Reckitt maximizes e-commerce sales through AI-driven targeting. This webinar is presented by CGT. It's presented in partnership with Sigmoid. My name is Maia Jenkins. I'm an editor at CGT, and I thank you for joining us here today. We're really excited, and I'm looking forward to what's sure to be a great conversation today. So let's go ahead and get started by looking at a couple of recent numbers. So according to some recent stats, $6 out of every $10 in media spending in the United States is allocated to digital. So this means, of course, that brands are competing for attention more than ever before, but also that a lot of this attention that they're competing for is directed to the digital screen share, making it all the harder to stand out from the crowd. So, of course, there are immense challenges in this area, not least in how to maximize your return on spend, but also how to gather the right data, make sure you're asking the right questions, targeting the right audience, and also to ensure that these efforts that you're putting in are being rewarded, that the return, you're getting some kind of return on this investment. But of course, within this, there is also a huge opportunity to tap into a massive audience if you get the investment right. And of course, that means investing in the right technologies. So one brand that we know is really driving growth and making progress in this area is Reckitt, who are investing in their machine learning and AI capabilities and fueling their e-commerce success using these tools. So we're going to be looking into that a little more in a little more detail today over the course of the conversation. But more broadly, we'll be looking at how leading brands are using these technologies really to influence things like audience selection, to decide on things like bid frequency, campaign budget, and generally just context setting. And we'll not just be focusing on the campaigns themselves, but how we approach these campaigns, where to start. We'll also take the conversation a little further, broadening it out to discuss how companies like Reckitt and others are developing their own frameworks or developing a greater understanding of consumer data using these CDPs and leveraging the insights therein to drive value, derive growth, and ultimately lead to greater sales. So we invite you to bring your questions for the speakers here today, and we hope that you'll leave with a better understanding of the state of advertising on retail e-commerce platforms, as well as some practical tips for engineering a more strategic advantage in this growing area. There's lots of opportunity. It's a really exciting area, and we're looking forward to a great conversation today. But before we get started, we just want to make sure that this webinar is as interactive as possible. So we're just doing a couple little bits of housekeeping here. We want to let you know that your feedback is important to us, those of you in attendance today. So please do use the tools that you have available to you here today. Send any questions and comments that you have. The webinar today is going to take the form of a conversation between Imteaz, Sundeep, and myself. I'll be asking the questions, but also we really want to hear your comments. We really want to get your insights from the audience too. So keep those comments coming throughout the conversation. Use the chat, the Q&A feature on the Zoom platform here. You can also post if you have any technical questions, and the team will get to those as well. And we also would like to call your attention to the fact that the webinar will be recorded and will be available in a couple of days if you miss out, have to leave early, or would you like to share this with your colleagues. So that is also something to bear in mind. So with us today to explore these ideas, we have Imteaz Ahamed and Sundeep Kumar. And I'm going to invite them to come up now and just introduce themselves, say a couple of words about their roles and Yeah, Imteaz, would you like to go first?
Sure thing. Thank you for having me, Maia and Sundeep, and really excited to have this conversation today. So Imteaz, I've been with Reckitt for 14 and a half years now. I've worked across the Australian, UK, the Dutch, and now the US markets. My first 6 years of my career was in the sales side of the organization, and then I somehow fell into e-commerce because I was qualified in PowerPoint and Excel. And over the last 8 years, I've done everything from setting up direct-to-consumer websites to setting up supply chain for direct-to-consumer websites. And then I've had to learn media, I've had to learn CRM, I've had to learn data science. I did a course at Harvard to learn data science as well, because I was hiring data scientists to work under me to crunch crazy numbers of data. And it's been it's been a very interesting journey for me, because when I started my career, I didn't think I'd be where I am today. And I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years time either. But this journey using technology to really unlock growth is something I'm really passionate about. So super excited to have this chat today.
Great, thank you. We're excited to have you here. And Sundeep, you're up.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Sundeep. I work as a senior strategy consultant at Sigmoid. Have close to a decade of experience in managing data science projects, data engineering project, providing technology and strategy consulting. So with Reckitt, we have a strategic partnership, and then I've been working with Reckitt for close to 5 years now across a variety of business units in supply chain and finance and e-commerce marketing. So yes, this was one exciting initiative that we're going to talk about today. But yeah, great to have Imteaz and Maia here. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much. Now, before we get started on the main conversation, we're just going to do a quick poll of the audience of people attending today, just to take a quick temperature check and get some context. So you'll see first a question pop up on your screen here. Poll question, if you could just answer that for us here. So what do you currently leverage to optimize ad campaigns on e-commerce platforms? So is it recommendations provided by the ad platform, machine learning driven recommendations, or historical insights from campaign managers? So if you could just select one of those there. Just wait for people to answer. Just about done now. All right, so we can see those results here. So the most popular choice is historical insights from campaign managers with 67%, and then followed by recommendations, and then machine learning driven recommendations. Imteaz, do these results surprise you or not?
This is what I'd kind of expected, right? In terms of using your agency or your performance media manager to look at historical insights of what has happened previously and use that as a proxy for what we predict to be the future is probably, the most common way of doing it currently. The ad recommendations from the platform specifically, well, that's very always in the platform's interest to optimize their performance on the platform. So not really surprised to see the answers here, but this is where the industry is at today. And it's, I'm not surprised to see machine learning being the lowest out of the three right now, but hopefully we can change people's minds towards the end of this presentation today.
Right. And Sundeep, do you have any thoughts on this as well?
Yep. So intuition is the way, or intuition-based decision-making is what everyone goes through today. After this seminar, I'm not very sure how many of them would change to data-backed decision-making, but then we want to try our best.
Great. All right, fantastic. So I'll close that one. And then we do have one more question here for the audience that's going to pop up now as well. Don't see that one just yet. Seems like we might be having some technical difficulties with this whole question. 1 second. Well, perhaps we can come back to that later. We can move on to the body of the conversation now. So with that in mind, what we've just seen there about the more popular choices of how people are kind of leveraging advertising on their e-commerce platforms, Imteaz, I have this question here for you. Can you give us an overview of the current state of advertising on retail platforms? What are some of the current challenges of running media with retail media partners?
Sure thing. So firstly, there's a plethora of retail media platforms launching at the moment. So it's, retail media is having a bit of a moment in terms of volume of growth just from the sheer number of networks that are launching. But that, as an advertiser is a struggle because you have to understand which ones are a priority for your brand or category versus which ones, don't have the fit. Secondly, not all retail media platforms are created equal. By that, I mean the KPIs are different from platform to platform. Attribution windows and how you attribute your sales from both an online and offline point of view is different by platform. So again, another challenge there. And there are requirements for you to do custom integrations with your own platforms to see how your data will flow through from your side of the equation into the retail media equation as well. So there's a lot of inconsistency in terms of the go-to-market, which requires a very specialized skill set to do all the things that you would want to do at the scale that you want to do it. And then finally is costs on these platforms are rising as well. So a lot of people or a lot of brands are heavily investing in this area. And sometimes I think they're investing ahead of what they could or should be, which is driving up cost. So from a advertiser point of view, I want to drive efficiency. I want to drive performance. Sometimes when some people get too excited about something and they throw too much money at the opportunity, it throws the category out of whack. So we need to be cautious in terms of how we invest and ensure that the results and the KPIs that we want to drive for the overall business and category are actually being delivered. And we're going to unpack that as we go on through the presentation, but you really need to have a category specific and business specific approach to this stuff because you can spend a lot of money very quickly and that's not necessarily going to drive performance.
Right. Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're saying about the nature of it potentially being fragmented and how do we consolidate that investment in the technologies and that people are getting overexcited and maybe overextending themselves in this way. So yeah, as you say, that's something we'll delve into a little bit later and also touching on the specific skill sets needed because there is, while this is a tech focus, there is still a people element to this as well and a specific type of capabilities required of the people who are coming to use these technologies. So that kind of brings me to my next question about what were the drivers or the pain points specifically that prompted Reckitt to partner with Sigmoid. This is for you, Imteaz.
Sure thing. So I started my role just over a year ago, and at the time, Amazon Ads was discussing the launch of its audience feature or audience upload feature within Amazon Marketing Cloud. So Amazon Marketing Cloud is Amazon's data clean room solution. And having my background in direct-to-consumer e-commerce in CRM marketing, as soon as I heard audience upload into a data clean room, my eyes just lit up. I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy because, for the first time, the challenge of seeing direct attribution of your media to sales at scale for a CPG could actually be realized. So, this really excited me because I had a deep understanding of our CDP because I worked in CRM marketing before. I had an understanding of our media capabilities because I've done performance media and direct to consumer, and I've always really worked in e-commerce over the last 8 years. So joining those dots together, I thought we're going to come to something really amazing if we can do this properly. So then I embarked on this journey of finding the right partner to kind of help us. And what that meant was, detailing this opportunity or business problem that I had to about 7 vendors who could crunch the data, could understand ad media buying, could understand our CDP, etc. And what it came down to, and the reason why we went ahead with Sigmoid for this particular use case, is because of their deep understanding of our CDP and deep understanding of how our internal architecture works, specifically for exporting this data out into a different platform. So having worked with us before and having seen good results previously from other media executions that we'd previously done, made the decision very easy for me to proceed with Sigmoid for this particular use case. And we're going to go into the detail later, but having a partner that already understands the business infrastructure as well as internal business process in order to move forward on new projects really makes it easier. And that's why we had a timeline under a year. If I had to onboard someone new to do something like this, it would take a significantly longer time. And I don't think we would get a pilot up as quickly as we did.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Like you said, that deep understanding of the infrastructure and of that CDP is invaluable to kind of hit the ground running. And like you say, to implement a pilot in under a year. Sundeep, just to bring the Sigmoid voice in a little bit here, do you have any comments on what Imteaz has just said here about your partnership?
For sure, Maya. So based on our long relationship with Reckitt, we understand the business problems. We understand the navigation skills that are needed to get things done in Reckitt. It's just amazing. So because we have had so many prior years of experience, we just knew the technology stack that we had to use to bring this solution, our understanding of Amazon's system, how does marketing in Amazon happens in Reckitt. And we have got multi-touch solutions as well deployed in Reckitt. So we understand their marketing behavior, the consumer mindset that they follow. How does the brand reach the audience? So all of those understandings really helped us. And it actually acted as a catalyst in terms of taking the solution to the market as early as possible. So that was definitely an edge.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the partnership as we go on in the conversation, but just taking it back a little bit here. You mentioned before when we were talking about challenges, Imteaz, about being specific in how you set up the KPIs before embarking on an initiative like this. So obviously specific KPIs of different efforts will depend on the goals, the expectations of a particular campaign, but also the category you're working within. And I was wondering if you could talk a little more about how you go about setting up those appropriate KPIs for your business.
Sure thing. Now I previously worked in healthcare, and I previously consumer healthcare, and I previously also worked in household cleaning before in my career. And now I work on the baby category, which is a very unique category. I want to say, because you only have this consumer of your product for a certain amount of time. For baby formula, they're only drinking baby formula for under a year typically, sometimes a little bit more. So you only have these 300 odd days to realize your lifetime value with that consumer. So given that it's such a short period of time, given that the dollars involved could be anywhere between, let's say, $600 to $1,200 worth of lifetime value, the marketing efforts that you put in to acquire that consumer, retain that consumer, and extend that consumer are mission critical. So what we've done here, and what some of the KPIs that we're looking for here, are in particular like new to brand. So how many of those consumers that are coming to our brand are net new? Because in the US in particular, there are 10,000 babies being born every day, and then there's also 10,000 babies leaving the category every day. So if we don't acquire new babies every single day, we don't have a business in X amount of time. So for this category, lifetime value is mission critical, followed by how much are you actually spending on acquiring that individual consumer? Now, in my previous career, we would be looking at profitability by category business unit or profitability at a case level. But what the aim here is to look at profitability at a user level for a certain record in our CDP. That's the vision of where we're heading to with this stuff. Now, for this particular execution, given the levels of investment that we make within paid media, it's really understanding how do I shoot a bullseye with every dollar that I spend, or how do I get so much better at my targeting that I only display my ads to people that are really in market for my product. There's no point of showing somebody baby formula products if they don't have a baby or they're not interested in the baby category at all. So it was really, how do I reduce my reach, improve my efficiency, and improve my ROAS over time while still growing new to brand. The next thing I want to talk about here in terms of driving profitability, there's a metric called PUPY, which is double PUPY, which stands for profit per user per year. So if you can drive your business to a user level and understand what is their lifetime value, how much money are you spending to acquire that customer, what are the COGS for the products that they're buying from you, and what are all of your other on costs of serving that consumer to drive that overall profitability at a user level, that gives you very good clarity in terms of what are those levers that you need to push within your business to drive that profit. So, all these tools kind of help us get there. We're not there yet. It's a journey, but using tools like a clean room to really refine your targeting and optimize your spend helps us get there.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, I have a 19-month-old kid, and I remember the day he turned 1, suddenly passing by the formula aisle and thinking, not my problem anymore, because it is really just that kind of like line there. So yeah, it's really interesting how that customization is so necessary. And Sundeep, do you have anything to add about how Sigmoid supports in this effort to, set appropriate KPIs and drive the puppy?
Yep. So while Imteaz gave a lot of business KPIs that we had to achieve, right? So our job was mainly to understand from the business and then understand what business KPIs needs to be impacted and then convert those into analytical KPIs. So we know that we have to increase the sales, but then to increase the sales, we have to know who to sell. So in this, the KPI for audience for the consumer was audience. There are cases where we have the first party data. In this case, we have the first party of the CDP data as well. So we know that the audience is the analytical KPI that we had to, and then what audience to target and after how many impressions the purchase gets driven. So how many impressions, and impression became your analytical KPI. So we have to find the right drivers, which was impressions, and then the consumer, which was audience, and then the budget. So we had a marketing budget that we had to spend to achieve that purchase, right? So how do you convert budget into an analytical KPI? For that, it was bid price. So at what price do we need to deliver impressions to what audience was a whole bunch of analytical API that we had to target. And that increased the overall sales that we're going to discuss later. So it's mainly the analytical API, the way you calculate is the differentiator that we had to add in.
Right. Right.
I just want to build here, and the point here is to spend the actual time to understand what do you actually want to drive, right? Like everyone is happy to buy new technology, or everybody, you can buy all the shiny tools in the world, but if you don't spend the time to really unpack what are the most important things to drive and how do you drive them within your business, you could really get lost very quickly with the volume of stuff that you have available to you now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So moving now to think a little bit about who's going to be driving this, these initiatives. what are the skill sets needed for anyone to think about approaching or solving this problem? I know we're not there yet, but what is needed from a skills perspective? I'll come to you first with that question, Imteaz.
Okay, so in terms of using a data clean room, the skill sets required would be audience management, media management, understanding of e-commerce delivery, and then also customer journey mapping as well. And I say customer journey mapping because within CPG, there are two things that you're really trying to drive. One is acquisition. How do I get new users into my brand? And then secondly is how do I get them to buy again, right? So understand from a media point of view and from a commercial point of view, those are the key skill sets required. And then the second part here is how do you translate all of those business needs into something that a technology partner can actually solve? So having Sundeep and having a connect with an IT partner or a tech partner that can really translate those into specific requirements that need to be built is the basis of how we did this thing. Otherwise, if I had too many stakeholders in between trying to discern what all the things I actually wanted to do and then change that into specific IT requirements without understanding the business context, then you can very easily get lost and not actually build what you need.
Yeah, and Sundeep, what could you add here about the tech capabilities that are needed for this?
For sure. So in general, the way Reckitt stands out from others, right? The business folks here have good sense of analytical data sets as well, and that reduces the overall team structure needed to drive this. It makes the team extremely lean. So while we had the business folks under Imteaz team who had some bit of analytical abilities as well, so we just had to have great mathematicians who could understand the business, convert those, and then drive the models, then get the MVP delivered. So we started with a very, very lean team, just a bunch of principal data scientists and data scientists to build the model, build the solutions. Once the solution was deployed and was made successful, then we made a fatter team to ensure that we deploy it to production and then scale this. And after that, the operational expenses to run this across geos and across brands was very, very low. So very lean to start, prove, then build, take it to production, and then have a very small, fully automated setup so that we can run it smoothly.
Just building on that is starting with the end in mind, but also getting a pilot that does all the things that you want it to do, enough so that you can validate the output, right? Like sometimes when we do pilots, they're so small and they're so off the mark, and then you have no trust in the scale up of it. Whereas here, we did something very end to end at a very rapid pace. We believe the numbers and we're happy to scale.
Right. Yeah. And I suppose that knowledge that you mentioned before of the infrastructure would help in that end-to-end building, end-to-end visibility as well. So going back here, you mentioned before Imteaz data clean rooms. We can talk a little bit more about those, or just to kind of define exactly what a data clean room is so that everybody kind of understands. It's a secure, controlled environment so companies can share, analyze sensitive data, but you're not falling foul of any kind of compliance data breaches. And it allows companies to kind of compare data sets in this kind of safe, controlled environment. And it's becoming a more widely adopted practice. It's a more popular tool. I think I saw that among companies that do use privacy preserving technologies, 2/3 of them now are investing in data clean rooms. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about data clean rooms. What are some of the opportunities that you see with this tool?
Okay, I love this analogy of explaining a data clean room through a middle school dance. So imagine you have two sides of the room, the boys on one side and the girls on the other side. Let's say the boys are a brand or a CPG, and then the girls are the media publisher. And then what happens in between is a highly chaperoned experience of, of people talking to each other, doing something, and then you go back to your wall. So that's a clean room. Basically, you put your data with somebody else's data in a highly compliant, secure place. There's an interaction, there's an exchange that happens.
Yes.
It's a learning experience, it's a doing experience, and then you go back to your corner. So a data clean room enables us to do these things at scale with compliance, with security. And it's the way that we have to go in the future because of cookieless world going into the future, as well as privacy concerns, etc. So it's an amazing piece of technology that addresses a lot of the concerns that we have within marketing technology.
Great. Yeah. Sundeep, do you have any thoughts on data clean rooms? I know we're seeing a lot of it in our reporting and our research of brands adopting it, like I said. So what do you think, what excites you about the opportunities of data clean rooms?
For sure. So Reckitt is almost there in the modernized data architecture system. They follow the medallion architecture where each of the data sets are exposed as an API for us. So you have the CDP data, which is the first party data, which is exposed as an API endpoint for us. Then we have the AMC data exposed as an API endpoint. So we were able to extract all of this data very cleanly, merge them together and feed it into the model. Obviously, if the source is corrupted, then it would be a garbage in and garbage out solution, but that was not the case here. Reckitt has been managing CDP for over many years now. So the data was very, very clean. We were able to get the CDP and the audience data and then refine those to get the output. So data clean room concept in Reckitt has been there for years now. And that really helped us spending like days and days into fixing data issues, and those sort of issues were not even there. So that's a great thing that increased our go-to-market significantly.
Wonderful. Yeah. And talking a little more about data here, like you say, Reckitt had first-party data to leverage. And what would be your advice, Imteaz, for companies that don't? What does it mean for companies that don't have that access or that resource?
Sundeep, do you want to take this one?
For sure. So the solution that we have designed can actually work for just having Amazon audience data as well. All right. So having first party data enhances the quality of the solution dramatically. But it is safe to assume that just having the Amazon audience data and some audience data from systems like PackView would also enable you to improvise and bring a solution. It is more about how quickly you are able to make decisions, and that can be done by machines much better than humans if you're able to take decisions on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. So let machine take those decisions of where the ad needs to be spent rather than humans, because the factors that machine can take care at a single instance of time would be more than humans if you're able to feed all the inputs inside that. Great.
Well, how about we take a look here, Sundeep, give us a quick high level look at how Sigmoid's solution in this instance kind of works.
Yes, perfect. So we built two major solutions. So the entire use case was solved by two machine learning solutions that we had built. The first one was aimed at driving the purchases, which was a combination of figuring out the right audience and then figuring out the right audience at the right budget. So that was the first one, to drive purchase. That was one statistical solution that we had built. The other one was focused on optimizing the cost, because obviously there is no end of number of dollars that you want to spend to achieve the audience that you want. So how do you optimize that? So that was a combination of right budget and right settings. So when we talk about settings, it's mainly around frequency, the amount of bid price that you have to put, and the viewability parameters as well. So these two solutions, when worked together in tandem, was able to deliver what was needed. We can go on to the next slide, Maya, and we can talk about the details as well. So again, we are talking about a 10,000 feet view here. So we have the CDP data of Reckitt. Again, this is an optional data set, just so that everyone who is viewing here should know. Then we have the audience data and campaign data from Amazon. And then we have the media platform from where we were getting some bit of audience intelligence. This gets fed into the optimization model setup. over here, we were able to figure out what should be the right audience and the right money that you need to invest. Then this was configured into the Amazon DSP platform where the bidding used to happen. And this feedback used to get into the campaign monitoring system, where we are seeing that, okay, if this campaign is something very, very new, and the audience that we have chosen was not appropriate, then just after a week, the system is intelligent enough to realign the new set of audience to ensure that we are not wasting a lot of money instead of having it done every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, which in case campaign managers would have to do it manually. So the combination of optimization, model setup, and campaign monitoring in totality, we were able to achieve results of a campaign by increasing the ROAS in just 3 weeks of its launch, which is completely unheard of.
Wow. So you say this implementation took 3 weeks to put in motion and to see results?
The creation of this was a 12-week exercise, again, because we had some business context in before, but the scaling of it, any new brand and geo combination can be integrated into this, and you would be able to see results in 3 weeks of its launch.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing a little overview there of how this all works, and some of the impacts that it's having. So we've seen this done for one retailer. We've talked here a little bit about Reckitt, and how could this be applied elsewhere to some of the others? And also we can combine this here with a question for Imteaz about what have been the benefits of the partnership and how are you measuring success in this area? So first, let's talk about maybe the benefits. How are we measuring success? Imteaz, some of the qualitative or the anecdotes that you have.
Oh, let's go to the next slide, where we have some of the case study results. So over the course of this pilot, what we had is purchase per dollar improved by 400% versus the benchmark period that we compared against. For context, the benchmark was 3 set periods over the last 2.5 years. So we didn't just compare against one period. For the ad sets involved here, or the campaign line items, we had ROAS improved by over 10x against the benchmark, and then our purchase rate improved by over 160%. So from an efficiency point of view, and when I say efficiency, I mean team point of view, I have one person running this internally from a commercial point of view. So my media manager is able to now scale multiple display campaigns using this technology, rather than having to employ another 3 or 4 people to run all of these campaigns with all of these iterations with all of these tests. We're using the Sigmoid solution to kind of do that with one person. So the efficiency unlock is amazing, but then the results here are even better. So we're looking to actively scale this up for the rest of our portfolio over and above the test that we've run on one particular product set and category.
Wow, yeah, those are some really game-changing numbers there, like you said. So it's great to see. And that kind of brings me to my last question here that I kind of touched on earlier for you, Sundeep. You've done this now with Reckitt. How could this be applied elsewhere in e-commerce with retailers, or even in other industries as well?
For sure. So the concept that we did here works like a charm for Amazon. All right. Just for the audience to know, even if you do not have first party data, like obviously we could not guarantee these numbers, but you would still see dramatic improvement in your purchase per dollar ROAS and purchase rate as well. All right. So for Amazon, we are good. We know that we are not able to get the same amount of data for other e-com retailers. And this is for all the e-commerce retailers to know that for us to be competitive, we have to expose our data sets as well. So that would be my honest request to all of them. We are trying to build something like ChatGPT for e-com marketing. All right. So if everyone tries to share their data sets, we could just build this a holistic solutions and can work for everyone. This solution, as of today, if I were to commit, works very good for Amazon. We are trying to build this for Walmarts and Targets of the world as well. All right. This is industry agnostic. We just need to change some configurations if you're doing it for manufacturing. And if you're doing it for Reckitt for other brands as well, there are just business level configurations that needs to be changed. But for Amazon, we should not be worried, and we will have a very quick go-to-market on all of this.
Great. So it's industry agnostic, but what I'm hearing again is that it still requires customization. There is not really a one size fits all solution. It's kind of dependent on lots of different factors, depending on the category, the market, etc. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I think we will move here to our Q&A portion, because we do have quite a lot of questions coming through for you, but thank you both very much for sharing those insights. We'll move to the questions now. And just looking here at some of the questions we've got coming through. So my first question would be for you, Sundeep. What are some of the tips or best practices starting out for companies starting out on day zero on their journey to optimize their marketing on e-commerce?
So that's a hard one. What we would request you guys is to first figure out the data sets, if you have the relevant data sets centralized. If not, our first request would be to build a centralized data warehouse so that you can bring all the data sets together and do a baselining as to where you currently stand, and then move into AI or ML related solutions, because your solution is only as good as the data sets that you have. So if you are way ahead in your maturity curve where you already have the data sets, relevant data sets there for you, in that case, we could just plug this solution, make those changes in the configurations and move ahead. That would be my response.
Great. Thank you. We have a question here actually about data cleanroom testing. It says, in starting out with cleanroom testing, are there specific partners that are more willing to work in this way? Amazon, Target, Kroger, Walmart, for example. And any additional guidance on budget requirements or considerations for the test phase?
So on the first one, in terms of connecting your data set to a data clean room. So previously, we were using a third-party service to connect our data to Amazon's data set. And what happened is we lost more than 50% of our data through the exchange. So directly connecting the data set from our CDP to Amazon significantly improved that performance, or that match rate, let's put it that way. So there are third-party services out there that do that for you, and many of the other retailers are pushing people to use the third-party service to connect the data, but you do see match rate loss when you do that. So that's one of the significant considerations of doing this stuff, is when and if the retailers do allow us to do direct connections, we're going to see better match rates versus the current solutions today. What was the second question, Maya?
So the second part here was, where did it go? Any recommendations on setting a budget during the test phase for data clean rooms?
I can't give you the exact numbers, but I mean, from a pilot point of view, you can start under $100,000 in terms of this sort of exercise from a pilot point of view. But I mean, if your total ad spend per month is less than $10,000, this is not going to work for you, right?
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. And I think we've probably got time for just one more question here. So I've got this question here for you, Sundeep. How long did it take for Reckitt to start seeing results post-implementation?
Got it. So I'll tell you the end-to-end timelines. Building a solution was a 12-week exercise. Once deployed, we were able to see results in 3 weeks. And then we sustained that results for another 3 weeks. So 6 weeks was when we were able to prove to the business that this solution works. And then we started scaling it to other brands. And each brand scaling, once developed, was a 3-week exercise.
Okay, so quite a quick rollout then. Fantastic. Well, we are at time. Thank you everybody for the questions. Just wrapping up here, I would invite Imteaz and Sundeep, do you have any final words of advice for us, or just final thoughts to leave us with today?
Go ahead, Sundeep.
Perfect. My request would be it's never too late to think about having a ChatGPT like solution for e-commerce marketing as well. Feel free to reach out to me and we'll be able to provide a helping hand.
Thank you.
And from my end, this stuff is only going to get bigger. So you need to get your toes in the water and get started on this now, more than anything else.
Fantastic. So the leaving parting thoughts for us is don't get left behind in this, right? Yeah, it's an exciting time, exciting area of development. So thank you both for sharing your thoughts with us today and for joining us. And also thank you to the audience for joining us here today. The recording, as I said, will be available in a couple of days. And we also will invite you to complete a short post-event survey that will be circulated to you via email. And thank you again to Imteaz for joining us and Sundeep for joining us, and for our partner in presentation today, Sigmoid. We hope you've gained some insights, and we're wishing you a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.